guys, it's Margie, and today I'm doing a movie review of the 2000 film Return to Me. This film starred David Duchovny, Minnie Driver, Carroll O'Connor, Robert Loggia, Bonnie Hunt, David Allen Cryer, Jolie Richardson, Eddie Jones, James Belushi, Marianne Mullen-Lear, William Bonder, Brian Howe, Chris Barnes, Adam Tangway, Carson Pound, Tyler Spitzer, Laura Larson, Austin Hibbs, and a brief appearance by Tom Virtue. It was directed by Bonnie Hunt, who, as I just mentioned, also starred in this. Music was by Nicholas Pike. Cinematography was by Laszlo Kovacs, who also did the cinematography for 2 Weeks' Notice, Miss Congeniality, Ghostbusters, and My Best Friend's Wedding. Edited by Garth Craven, who also did the editing for Legally Blonde, My Best Friend's Wedding, Turner and Hooch, and One Fine Day. Written by Bonnie Hunt, Don Lake, Andrew Stern, and Samantha Goodwin. Produced by C.O. Erickson, who also produced Groundhog Day and Kiss the Girls. Melanie Green, and Jenny Lou Tungent, who also produced Free Willy and Lethal Weapons 1, 2, and 3. So the basic plot for this movie is there's this young couple, and they're in love, and everything's going great, and then they're involved in a car accident, and the wife dies, and because she dies, she was an organ donor, and another young lady, played by Minnie Driver, gets her heart, and about a year later, Minnie Driver's character meets the former husband of the lady that died, and then they meet. So it's the story of their relationship and just all things to do with that. Let's jump into performances for this movie. David Duchovny, I hope I'm saying that right. I thought he did a really good job, and a lot of critics did not like his performance because they thought that he looked weak next to Minnie Driver. I really didn't see that. I thought they were about on equal playing grounds. I thought they both did a really good job. And I thought his performance was very good. And he had a crying scene that I thought he delivered in well. Now, it wasn't one of the best crying scenes I've ever seen. And the shot was taken far away from his face, so you couldn't really tell if he actually was crying. But it looked authentic from where the camera showed you. I thought he delivered very well, and a lot of that is just the writing and the staging. I'm getting to that. That was really good. So I thought his performance was great. Minnie Driver, I thought she had a really good performance. She made the character very likable, very warm, and she definitely fit into, her character's kind of awkward, and she hasn't dated a lot, so when she starts dating David's character, it's so cute, and that's a lot of that is the writing, but she filled the role very, very well. I thought she did a great job. Carroll O'Connor, this was his last film that he was ever in. I thought he did great. He has done so many good things in his career, and of course, I felt like this was a great note for him to go out on, and I thought he did a really good job. His accent, he was supposed to portray an Irish guy. It was kind of weird sounding, I'm going to be honest, but that's probably just because I'm so used to his thick drawl that it sounded weird to me. Moving on to Robert Loggia, I hope that's how you say his last name. Y'all, he was so good, and he is always so good. He has been in so many good films, and he was older when this movie was being made, and he just, bless him, he's still going. He has continued acting for at least 10 more years after that. He is so great, and he always plays these warm, rich characters, and I thought he did a great job. Bonnie Hunt. I thought Bonnie Hunt did a great job. I really don't think there was anything else she could have done. I feel like she kind of typecasted herself because this is so classic. She was such a classic 90s supporting actress. Like, she was literally in everything in the 90s, and she was always in a supporting role, but to me, she delivered every time, and I thought she did really, really well in this role as well. Jolie Richardson, I thought did so well. She made her character seem so likable, and she plays the wife that dies in the beginning, so you're not going to see very much of her, but what I saw, I don't think she could have done anything more with it. I thought it was great. I'm skipping several people here. James Belushi, as many of you know him, I thought he did great. Again, I thought he was very typecast. He plays Bonnie Hunt's husband. But you know what? If you're typecast, it's great as long as you fill the role to the max that you can. Like, there's a reason a lot of these people were typecast. It's because these are the kind of roles that they do the best at. And if that's what you do well, then do it. And don't try and ruin yourself. That's a side note. Okay, great job to James Belushi. I mean, I felt like it was a pretty easy role for him. I don't really think he had to do any major work to get into it. That's just my opinion. Okay, guys, moving on to the direction. Bonnie Hunt. Bonnie Hunt, this was actually the first movie that she's ever directed. I thought she did such a good job. I really, really did. I mean, just the overall tone of the film is so warm and charming. And she also wrote this with, she did the screenplay for it. My gosh, I'm going to kind of group these together, direction and writing, and talk about both right now. Y'all, she did such a wonderful job with this movie. She directed it, she wrote it, she starred in it. I mean, this is her child, and her child is beautiful. I really enjoyed this movie. Their characters are just so warm and they're so relatable. It's like, wow, I would say that, and like that awkward, crazy moment is something that's happened to me. It's so relatable. The characters are so warm. They're rich. They're really rich characters, and they're really fleshed out really well. You feel like you know them. You feel like, this guy could be your neighbor down the street. There's nothing, you don't have to suspend any disbelief. They're just average people that are in less than ideal circumstances, or whatever whatever you say. Very realistic, but very charming at the same time. I thought she did a really great job, especially considering this is her first time directing. I thought she absolutely crushed it, and I thought her writing, especially for the dialogue, was great. I mean, I just love the writing. There's so many lines that are funny, but they're not like har funny, but they're witty, and they're quick, and they just bring a smile to your face. Like, the dialogue is so rich, and it's just like, especially between the older characters here, like Carroll O'Connor and Robert Loggia, they just really had this great, like, she did such a good job with the relationships between the characters and fleshing that out, and especially in such a short amount of time. Like, you had just met these first early characters, but you already feel like you know them, and then they're just so great. Like, she did such a great job with her characters. So I'm going to move on and not talk about that and run your ears off with that. Let's talk about the music. I thought the music was good. There wasn't a whole lot of original score here. A lot of it was old recordings from an older time period. But I thought that the choices in those recordings was great, and I thought that the little score there was here was pretty good. It didn't stand out to me, but it definitely was appropriate for the film. Cinematography. Of course, the cinematography for this was great. Warm tones, rich textures, warmth. The whole film is coated in this layer of warmth, except when you're in the hospital scenes, which are very cold and sterile, which is how the characters are feeling. So it's perfect. The film is just so warm and so relatable, and it's just warm. I can't say anything else. Obviously, Laszlo Kovacs knows exactly what he's doing, and he did a great job here. The editing for this was great. There was maybe one or two scenes that could have been cut, but the film didn't drag. The pacing was great, and you weren't just sitting there saying, will this ever end? But you didn't feel like you were being rushed along. Like, there was time for you to understand the characters, and it was just, the editing was so lovely. And, of course, I mentioned who produced it, and, of course, I talked a little bit about the writing already. Lovely. Absolutely lovely. The story was great. The way you moved through the story was great. The dialogue was great. There was a few cheesy moments, but you're just like, oh, my little heart is so warm that who cares? You know, I mean, to me, it's cheesy, but it's so charming that you're just like, oh, I'll overlook that. You know, that's kind of at least how I felt. So, anyway, guys. Okay, let's jump into the parents' guide for this movie. The language for this is probably more than you're expecting, but it's not ridiculous. We have no F's, 5 uses of the S word, 4 uses of the A word, 7 uses of the H word, 4 uses of GD, 2 uses of D, and 3 uses of B. And as far as sexual content, we have a couple sexual mild sexual references between married characters, and we have some cleavage. Other than that, it's clean as a whistle. There's nothing nasty or gross. And I read somebody else, another critic, said this is a great film to watch with your parents. That's very true. Because, you know, we've all had that experience where you're like, oh, let's watch this movie together. And then there's this awkward scene. You're like, hey, Mom and Dad, this is a little awkward. We're not going to lie. You won't have that with this movie. I thought it was very tasteful, very appropriate, and the characters were extremely wholesome in this film. Drug and alcohol, there is drinking of beer and wine, and there may be like a couple characters that smoke. I don't remember any though. So, and no serious drug use. Violence and gore, as I mentioned, the wife does unfortunately pass away early in the film. And her husband is shown covered in her blood. Like his shirt is all bloody and he has some wounds, and so that may bother you a little bit. It wasn't ridiculous. Like, it didn't really bother me that bad. So, okay guys, let's talk about a little bit about these special notes I've made. Or I have early in the film, David Duchovny killed his early crying scene. He did. I feel like that was aided by Bonnie Hunt / the cinematographer, who said, let's pull the camera away from him while he does this crying scene, because I honestly felt like he wasn't legitimately bawling, and if the camera had been closer, you probably would have been able to see that. However, given the angles, and like, it seemed really real, and it just hit you like a punch in the gut. It was like, oh man. And like, again, the way to me that he expressed his emotion, you'll have to see this scene, it's really good, is like, I've totally done that. I would totally do that. It was very authentic and very real. It wasn't like, oh, you know, it was just like, I would do that if I just suffered a major loss like that, and I have done that before, so I thought that was great. Bonnie and the actors and the writers did a great job creating the romance between David and Jolie. Jolie's character, which is the main character, and his first wife. The relationship with them was very warm and real, and you were just like, oh, they're so in love, they're so adorable, you know, and you just believed it. And they only have, like, you know, 15 minutes to get you to completely buy into that, so you feel sad when she dies, and Bonnie killed it. Like, they, you know, it's like you instantly just fall in love with this couple, and then when she dies, you're devastated like he is, and that's very hard to do in such a short period of time. Great on that, you know. And this is kind of going off track a little bit, but you know, when I hate it when they have these movies that, like, they try and get you to fall in love with the character so fast to kill them off, and you're like, no, you were just trying to get me to like them, so I feel sad when she dies, but you didn't give me enough time, or she didn't, you know, whatever, so I didn't really like them, so they died, and I'm just kind of like, you know, and that sounds really heartless, but you know what I'm talking about. This character was so fleshed out and so dynamic to me, that when she passed away, even though you'd only known her for 15 minutes, you felt genuine loss. I think that was killer. I thought that was great. The characters in this movies are so rich and so relatable, and you feel like, again, like I said, you know them. They live down the street from you. You want to hang out with them. You want to spend time with them. They go bowling. You're like, oh, I want to go bowling with you. Like, they're just so warm and like, they're just so hearty, you know. They're just like, God, you could be my uncle. wrapping this one up totally, guys, I just want to say that I was not expecting to really fall in love with this movie because it's lower budget and it's, around the 90s, so you get a lot of, a lot of cheese and not that there weren't great movies in the 90s, there really, really were, but I just wasn't expecting it to really be a quality movie, and this is a really quality movie. Not only is it quality, it's very clean, except for the mild language. It's very clean, it's very enjoyable, it's very relatable, and it's very entertaining. So I am giving this movie 3.5 stars out of 5 because I actually really liked this movie when I thought it was just going to be another meh, check that one off the list type of movie. Would I watch this movie again? I'm going to say that I would probably watch this one again. It'll be a while and it's not going to be one of my favorites, but I feel like, a lot of times when you have these movies, like, regardless of how great the acting is or how great your director is, if you're not passionate about the film and excited to work on this project, it's going to show through in the movie. And it was very obvious that everyone that was working on this film really, really was excited about this movie. They wanted it to do well. They loved the material. And it definitely showed. And they are all having, it's just like, wow, they all had so much fun making this movie. Like, it just showed. There was so much warmth. If I say warmth one more time, you're going to kill me. So I'm going to wrap this review up, guys. Anyway, this was my movie review of the 2000 film Return to Me. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later.